leave and come back.
Okay.
Sorry, my Discord bugged out.
Oh, did it? It bugs sometimes really hard, especially when we had Phantom Projects meetup a week ago. So maybe due to the sheer number of listeners, but it glitched really hard. I mean, I couldn't even invite people on stage normally because when I was hovering my mouse over the users, I couldn't tag them. So this bottom part of the screen has been almost like frozen on Discord for me. Maybe it's just for me, for my end version, but I don't know. Maybe Discord simply is not intended to host so many, people during one event. I don't know.
Let's see if a little bit more people are gonna join. Flu, can you post on our Discord to let people know that we're here? Sorry, I was asking our admin.
Yeah, and well, it's still 2 minutes till the actual time.
Yeah, and people usually come in late.
Yeah, plus that.
Um, how are you guys doing? How is your plan coming up for putting up the payments through credit card to buy crypto? I
Yeah,
love I
I've been
I actually
speaking.
love that idea. I love it so much, dude.
Yeah, it is important. Many virus protocols are counting on us, including, to be honest, some of the DEXs. I mean, imagine that, but even some DEXs tell that they might be willing to put our widget on if we run this fiat on ramp solution. They're really writing me that they would love to even put our widget with our swaps on their websites if we allow also the because many of them run farms, that kind of stuff, and they earn with that, so they just want people to be able to get on ramp by card. So yeah, but I'll be talking about that on our part because otherwise I won't be telling much, right? I actually like the prediction game. Maybe we'll touch that a bit. So I thought maybe we can even play it while having a chat on our Discord server while playing on your website the prediction game. So that would be fun, spending time with our community.
Yeah. I'm on my phone right now, but I'll have the mummy turn it on and play a little bit with you guys. Um, we um we actually developed it to try. We've explained this before, to try not to be casino style. Essentially, we made it fully centralized. You only get the bets from other players, and we take a fee off the top. The reason we did this is because we thought that it would be more fair. We wouldn't have an edge. Casinos have that model. We have a player base, which kind of makes it a little bit unfair. So we thought it would be fairer this way. More what crypto.
Sorry, man, you're disappearing as if you're either far from mic or your mic has like low sensitivity.
I don't know. I
In
don't know. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you all the time, but like the beginning and the end of each phrase is sort of fades out.
Okay. Okay. Now, is it better now? I don't know what's happening
Much,
on
much
the
better,
mine.
much better, much better.
Okay. Okay. Sorry. But yeah, basically, we wanted to make it fully decentralized. It would be a lot better if we had it like this, because it allows us to make it more fair for our player base, which is essentially our goal here.
Okay, if you are curious about my feedback, I like it, but for me personally, I remember that you actually mentioned that you need to pay the costs for running in this game, but for me personally, as a player, a tax of 10% looks a little bit too much. I mean, I wouldn't be playing much with tax of 10%. Maybe you can reduce it over time to something like
Yeah,
5%,
we
3.
actually do want to reduce it over time. We need to acquire a bigger player base and more volume, because the keepers are pretty expensive. We spend about 200 phantom a day on those keepers, or 150 phantom, excuse me, on those keepers. So they get pretty pricey. So for right now, we need to have a higher cost. But we're essentially what we're going to do is over time as we grow and our player base grows for the predictions game, we're going to be reducing the times where you can play. So basically, you can play more often, and we're going to be making the fees cheaper. So yeah, we're planning on advancing on that. It's just not something we can support right now if we don't do it like this now. But the contract has a fee that's adjustable, so exactly so we can change it later.
All right. So I think it's time we can start talking about like the main topic for us for today. So it's the first part of the AMA session with Scarab Finance. Yoshi Exchange officially announced its partnership with Scarab yesterday. Was it yesterday? Sorry,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
we announced
remember.
it yesterday. We announced it
Yeah,
yesterday.
yeah, Wednesday, yesterday too. So, we listed Scarab and G Scarab. I guess it was Wednesday last week. And also, I know Scarab is interested in setting up our widget. We're just having some technical discussions on the implementation. So I'd like you, the Pharaoh, so sort of the king of the project, to describe Scarab Finance to us the way you see it.
Well, we have we're a senior ash protocol. Everyone knows it. A tomb fork, basis cache fork, whatever you prefer. Um, and we know and we see this a lot. It's very common for tomb forks and basis cache forks to go to zero because it is unsustainable to count on just having an inflow of people and an inflow of new money to keep you propped up. And that isn't our vision. It isn't something that we find to be reasonable. I think I guess you can do it if you have infinite amounts of money, but that isn't our case, and we are not a whale, so we can't do it like that. Our perspective is to make it sustainable through inbuilt revenue streams that we can put onto our project, add to our protocol to sustain our emissions, to have backing to them, to basically our long-term plan is to collateralize our token, have it at least partly collateralized. If we could get it to 50%, that is our goal. And the reason for it is we need something to back our emissions. We need an actual value behind them. And to do that, you need revenue. You can't just count on people coming in. That isn't sustainable. So, you know, we've already taken some steps. The predictions game was a small step for that. Sin Spirit was another big step that we took. And we're continuing developing new features and we're bringing new things to add to this um, company essentially that we're trying to build because we want to offer real services and real things onto our protocol to basically create a derivative financial asset that can create value over time and give you interest over time, but that it makes sense. You're basically supporting us by investing in Scarab that we can continue developing features and services that add real value. That is our view and that is our perspective. And I think it is the only way that I see that you can make something like this work. You can't just try to play Ponzonomics forever. I think they can certainly help if they're well thought out and well designed. You can certainly make very interesting models to support your system, but it always is going to need some real value behind it, and that is what we're trying to achieve.
Awesome. So, shall we get straight to the questions from the audience? I think we have quite a few, well enough to fill all our time.
Sure, we for me that's fine.
Okay, let's just go in chronological order and take some. So, for instance, one of our community agents asks, you seem to have some really interesting ideas to support getting Scarab to pack. The prediction game and Sin Spirit are two that I'm aware of. Can you explain how this strengthen your protocol and what might be coming in the near future?
Okay, so basically the predictions game helps in a very simple way. You play the predictions game, you play against each other, and we take a fee off the top, which allows us to stack up our treasury and and do buybacks of Scarab when necessary. It gives us a revenue stream that we can rely on even when below peg, which is very helpful in a protocol like this. The second thing, and Sin Spirit, is something I'm actually very passionate about because I modeled the system and I'm very proud of it. But basically, we in terms of design, it is actually a mix of Liquid Driver and Grim. So we thought that the Wind Spirit model is very interesting to us because we essentially have access to revenue from Spirit Swap, and at the same time help their users by giving them a liquid position of in spirit that, in spirit is not tradable, so you're locked. But we give you a liquid position in that you can trade freely and that you can use, and sell and buy whatever, however you prefer. And we give you all sorts of advantages because of this. There's a farm. It's going to be live very soon on Spirit Swap that you can stake your Sin Spirit LPs and gain Spirit rewards. We're going to be adding a yield optimizer shortly after it launches. Um, and for us, essentially, how we make revenue off of this is we get access to a large in spirit position that gives rewards. They will be those rewards will be distributed to Sin Spirit holders that stake them in our single staked Sin Spirit vault. But we take a cut, obviously, to take profit for the protocol. And on our vaults, we get revenue from our vaults and our farm, and those vaults are basically staking your Sin Spirit, your LPs into the Spirit Swap boosted farms. We're getting those boosts for you, and in the backhand, what's happening is we're farming Spirit, and we're taking that Spirit, we're minting Sin Spirit, and breaking it into LPs, and basically now we have a bunch of Spirit that we have as backing to the emissions of Sin Spirit that we made. So we use that Spirit to buy more Sin Spirit and whatever Spirit is left to make more LPs to stake them in the Sin Spirit farm on Spirit Swap and compound our revenue. And basically now we have an inbuilt revenue stream through that farm. So basically, for Sin Spirit, we get revenue from three things. We get revenue from the vaults, we get revenue from our in spirit position, and we get revenue from our farms. And it creates it gives us access to a farm that we can then create extra revenue from the protocol without actually having to use anything that we had to generate before, right? We just got that spirit. So it is a system that helps us a lot because it allows us to buy back Scarab when we're below peg. It allows us to build up our treasury more and more, which is very important for us right now. So it is quite helpful because it gives us several different revenue streams, and it provides a more stabilizing position for us or for Scarab.
Awesome. Would you like to take another one with the reference to Tomb?
Excuse me.
Would you like to answer a question with the reference to Tomb Finance?
Sure. I don't have any
Okay,
problems with it.
okay, so Cam33SS also asks, do you see, or maybe I should pronounce it Kemes? Okay, sorry. Do you see your goal the same as Tump, namely to provide phantom liquidity and allow more phantom to be staked and stabilize the network? Or do you take a different perspective on your algo pegged token?
Well, so yes and no, because I don't see Scarab as a store of value. Maybe maybe one day, if it has enough collateralization, we can look at it that way. But I don't see it as a store of value, and I'm not. That's not what we're trying to do. At least not until we have sufficient collateralization of our token. Um, I see it as a derivative asset. It's not really, you're nobody's gonna buy fucking fruit with Scarab. Nobody's gonna go to the grocery store and buy things with Scarab. That's not what it's designed to do. So I don't really see it as that. But what I see it as is an asset that you can invest on, and it gives you returns. And that asset is basically a share of our protocol that is, building different revenue streams for itself. So it's not really just a store of value that is adding parallel liquidity to Phantom. But that said, the advantage of having, the protocol healthy and having the protocol stabilized is that it can be also served as an extra liquidity pool to Phantom, essentially, because when you have enough collateralization, you have the stability to be, the behavior of a token to be predictable enough that it can be counted on and relied on as basically single staking Phantom. So there is a way to get to that, but it's not really how I see Scarab as of yet, and it would take a lot to get there, and it's really not as much of a goal as it is an unintended consequence or a consequence of the things that we're building.
Awesome. So, Kitamani asks, where can I find more information about Scarab project? Where can I find your white paper? Is it available publicly?
Excuse me, sorry, I couldn't hear the last part.
Is your white paper available publicly?
Yeah. You can check out our docs. Everything's outlined in there. We have a roadmap. We have updates on Sim Spirit. We try to keep them updated as much as we can. Thankfully, our mod team is amazing and they help us a lot in that regard.
Oh, by the way,
So
I see
yeah,
somebody in chat also answers by providing a link, so might have just skipped that.
yeah.
So, oh yeah, interesting question from the Freak Show. I feel like it might be helpful to address the elephant in the room. How do you feel in the aftermath of Harry outburst last week? I feel like Scarab is pretty unique, but have you made any adjustments to your roadmap in response to the change in Tom Fork landscape?
So we can address that issue. First, the first problem that occurred was obviously his tweet saying that he was going to come after Tomb Forks and that he could sue people for copying his contracts. We talked to him. I DM'd him when I saw that, and he kindly responded. And basically, we talked about it. He said that he was going after rugs and rug pools that were being unaccountable and that were trying to basically steal from people. And he wasn't really trying to attack, people who are actually doing their trying to build a protocol and trying to be legit, and that never stole. So he told us that we weren't on his shit list on that regard. Now regarding the Tomb 3 Ohm Alliance, that doesn't really bother us. I don't really see it as the same market as we're trying to get, to be honest. In a way, it is because obviously we're Tomb Forks, so we attract a lot of the same eyes. But we're trying to build something different. So even though I can totally see that, we're very similar, we hope that with time we're not going to be the same thing. We're not trying to be the same thing. We're not trying to do the same things. So that doesn't really bother me because it's not the market we're trying to get, and it's not really the asset we're trying to be. So I think that certainly we should all look, if you're interested in building a protocol like this, you should all look at what Harry's doing because it affects the Phantom landscape and affects the ecosystem. But sometimes you gotta, you know, worry more about yourself and what you're doing, and not just focus on what everybody else is doing. And I think this is one of those situations where, yeah, we address the one that concerned us, the ones that don't, we don't really care, because um, it's not focusing on them that we're going to build something that's successful. So we got to focus on ourselves now.
Yeah, I agree. Certain degree of resilience is important. Now let's touch the design side of your project. Freak Show also asks, I haven't seen any projects that have gone with an ancient Egypt theme before. What was your inspiration? I think it's a cool addition to the Phantom ecosystem. So really, why ancient Egypt?
Well, to be honest, we thought it was also made as a wink and nod to the community, because we thought the Egypt theme would be very funny, considering the pyramids and what everyone says
Whatever.
about
Mummy.
chimporks. So we thought it was a pretty cool wink and nod that we could do, and the theme has a lot of you know potential and a lot of things that we can do that are pretty cool. So we just thought it would be pretty funny, and that we can make some interesting stuff out of it. And to be honest, I like the Egyptian theme. I'm a fan of the mythology and all that. So I do like the theme. So we decided to go from there, and the since it gives that gold touch, we can do some pretty neat color themes and things like that with it. So yeah, that was why.
Awesome. So now, sorry, Shazbad asks about the community engagement. So I'll read the whole question. It feels like one of the most important parts of a strong pack project is a strong and engaged community, which it seems like Scarab Finance does a really good job with. How did you build this investor base and how you kept them so involved, especially through choppy weeks in the market? Any plans for the future to keep making your community engagement stronger?
Well, first, this is something that I take deep pride in, and that I try to focus on a lot, because those people out there in our Discord, those guys that trusted us, they're what allows us to do this, and they're letting me live my dream. So I have a deep gratitude to all of them, and I feel like I have a responsibility to them. That is why we haven't quit, because I do feel like we have a responsibility to our holders and to the people who trusted in us. And I never promised that we would succeed, but I did promise I would do everything that I could to do so. So I will keep that promise, and I will do everything in my power to hold that. And for that, I think contact is important. We try to communicate with the community often. I spend a lot of time in our Discord. I try to do AMAs regularly, and cool events to spend time with them. The reason for it is because it's important. People are important. People want to know who they're trusting with their funds, who they're trying to invest in. So it's something that we take deep pride in, and our mods are very helpful with this. They're always on, and they're always answering questions. They're really good. We're very happy to have them on the team, and it's because of this team that we have, and a community that we have that is so supportive, that we can do it. And yeah, we're trying to expand this. I've had plans for a while, and I feel bad that we haven't done it yet. But to do a live AMA every week with our community, I want to even to do it on video. We just haven't gotten the space to record yet, and we're trying to get one. But yeah, we're planning on adding on things to continue bridging that gap and trying to close in our ties with our community, because they're what allows us to do this. It's a community driven project.
Great. So also it's good that you touched the team because Life for Ayur asks that your team makes really rapid changes and developments. Is there something unique about the way your team is set up that enables you to be so nimble? Do you have previous experience that helps you build relationships and create new features so quickly?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that we're very driven. We basically don't do anything else other than work right now. We um, try to be very adaptive. Basically, we split the team in a way that we have a guy on full stack because we're four devs. So we have a guy on full stack, a guy on Solidity. I'm handling the business side, and the mummy helps me with this in community management. Um, and essentially, the way we do things is whenever someone needs support, for example, when we're developing something, we shift attention towards that and try to split tasks because since we're all developers, we can all code and help in that department, so we can adapt pretty quickly. And yeah, we got to know a lot of very cool people on Phantom, which gives us access to very cool partnerships and things like this. Because we actually enjoy the community, and we enjoy spending time in the community and meeting cool projects and meeting cool people. And this allows us to do partnerships and it allows us to do interesting stuff with these
With
people, which is very important because partnerships in DeFi are what makes or breaks a project. It's very important to closen your ties with whoever's around you, especially for Senior Rush Protocol, because the way to really help a Senior Rush Protocol and maintain itself is you need to have it basically connected to and anchored to every point of the Phantom ecosystem to basically make it follow the Phantom price, which is what you're trying to do. So yeah, that's why, because we just work hard and focus on what we have to do, and we're always looking for new things and always trying to adapt because we know that DeFi moves very fast. So I'm actually always tinkering with new ideas and trying to model new things. Sometimes our guys have to tell me to calm down because we need to focus on something specific. But yeah, we're always trying to adapt because DeFi moves so fast. You can't really stop. You really got to adjust to what's happening and try to pick up on what's the next big thing, what makes sense, what someone developed, so you can try to follow their steps or see how you can implement their model or make a model that helps their protocol as it helps yours. So yeah, that's what we've been trying to do, and we're going to continue doing by reaching out to other people and to other projects and see how we can do mutually beneficial partnerships. And yeah, we're really focused on it and really focused on making sure that we have our finger on the pulse and know what we can do next that attracts people's eye and that it makes us a more interesting project.
Awesome. So now let's touch the security side of the issue. The same user asks, somehow security has become even more emphasized since you launched. I've heard you speak about trust, and you sound pretty passionate about it. What steps are you taking to make sure potential investors feel comfortable as they consider Scarab?
Can you repeat that last part? I'm sorry, my internet was breaking up.
About the security. So, what steps do you take to make sure that new investors feel safe when considering your project?
Okay, so a couple of things. First, we did a Certic audit. We chose them because they're the best in the market, and to be honest, I've been public about this and don't stop talking about it. Auditing services in DeFi are a service that I have quite a few problems with. Most of them tend to not have the quality to price that they demand, but and always tend to be more of a shill service than anything else, in my opinion. But some of them are very good. Certic is one of them, so we decided to go with the best in our opinion. Um, the second thing is I doxed myself, me and the mummy, to a couple of prominent members in the community, including Trading Tulips from the Tulip DAO and the Spirit Swap teams also knows who we are. The reason for it is, well, we can give an assurance to people that if we ever rugged or if we ever committed a crime or did anything that was out of line, that we would be outed immediately. And the reason we didn't QIC for this is because we we don't like them. QIC kind of sucks. They essentially they essentially do exactly the same thing as doxing yourself to a member of the community because they don't actually do anything when it comes to legal matters. They just dox you and nothing else happens. So we don't like QIC. QIC services are not very good. So we thought it would be better to dox ourselves to members of the community, which also can create trust. And in terms of like funds, security measurements for users' funds, actually the wallet where the treasury is kept is in a computer that is never turned onto online, and it's never connected online unless we need to make a transaction. So that is one of the things that we have. It's completely separate, and funds are kept in ledgers as well. We did this because it's a lot better than just having it lying around or something. So that is our approach to this. And yeah, those are the steps we've taken. We are also considering trying to automate as much as we can the transactions that happen within the protocol with keepers when Chainlink brings them online. That is one of onto Phantom. So that is one of the things that we're trying to implement to basically make our system as secure as they possibly can be, and make it as independent as automatic as possible. The reason we haven't done this yet is because it's going to take a lot of modeling and it's going to have to be very, very careful because in a senior Roche protocol, there's a lot of things that you can't really code because you got to be looking into the situation and what is exactly happening. So you have to be very careful with how you do things. So we're preparing models for this, but it's still a way away because we still have a lot on our plate before we can handle that part, and we still have to wait for Chainlink to get their keepers online on Phantom.
Awesome. So let's take one from Nezix. I think we'll skip the first one because it feels to me like we've been touching dedication and the development process and your team already. So let's take the second one. Can you tell us more about how your relationship with Mr. Yeah came to be? Were you the ones to reach out, or did Harry come to you?
How our relationship with
Yeah.
Harry. Well, I wouldn't call it a relationship. We're not married, but
Yeah.
uh, but well, I DM'd him when, as I said, I DM'd him when he made that tweet, threatening to come after Tomb Fork. So I decided to contact him personally, and we've been talking a little bit since then. It's not really, not really. Um, it was just a cordial conversations, and we talked a little bit. It's nothing major, and we have not discussed anything. Any big subjects or anything. He clarified that he wasn't going to come after us, and then it was just friendly chat, not really something that I'm going to be talking about, publicly.
Okay, so SNU 2301 warns us that it's a hypothetical question, and it goes like this. When Scarab does reach peg, for how long do you think it can sustain peg and even go over peg in a way to give more value to bondholders with the current strategies and protocols being put in place to help? Please give a rough estimate.
So, obviously, it's hard to quantify. It really depends on a lot of factors. But the goal now is reaching peg and stabilizing there, and continuing to build from it. We're trying to establish a bottom, and that takes time. It's still a long road away. I've been very public with the community. We're still stacking up our treasury, filling it up, making sure that we have funds to control it ourselves. We don't want to be dependent on external outside factors that are out of our control. So The protocol's inbuilt revenue systems are helping in an obvious way. They are doing what we need, which is fill up our treasury, make sure that it has enough to issue buybacks of Scarab to control our peg. The problem with senior rush protocols is that everyone dumps because they're afraid of going under peg and they're afraid of getting dumped on. But if you can give investors the trust that you can control the peg yourself, that they can be there, you actually don't even need to use that many funds because it's all about game theory. If people can trust that you can do it, they will jump in because they will feel safe and they will think and it will feel like it's a safe investment. So to do this, we need to give them that trust. And to do that, we need a fucking bolstered treasury. We need a lot of funds. It takes very deep pockets to run a CNRS protocol. So that is what we're trying to do. Establish a deep liquidity pool, establish a deep treasury so we can control our price independently from external sources and independently from external factors. And sometimes we will fall below peg and we will let the market do its thing. And if necessary, we'll put ourselves above peg again after we are more established because the protocol cannot run on peg forever. It's not as sustainable. So it will have to have periods of contraction. And we are not planning on constantly trying to control it and trying to pump it up. What we are planning to do is build up to the peg, establish a bottom, and then we have to stay around that level as long as we can and around that path for to confer stability onto the system. It's designed to be pegged to Phantom. It's designed to be at the price of Phantom. And we're not trying to be at 3x over peg or 5x over peg because that isn't sustainable and that isn't healthy. We're trying to control it and trying to make sure that we can stay at that level and put our bottom at peg or slightly below it and fluctuate at around that price throughout our lifespan.
Awesome. Proipkis, I suppose I pronounced it right, asks a number of questions. So one about the ownership. Will you renounce ownership so make it more like a DAO?
We haven't renounced ownership yet. I think I'm pretty sure that the one of the ownership of like the T-share reward pool, so our G-Scale reward pool is the treasury contract. So I'm pretty sure we already don't have ownership of most of the protocol, but I do not want to promise that because I am not entirely sure. I need to talk to one of our devs about that. But we haven't put our plans on renouncing ownership yet, but we are planning on it. We want to develop a DAO system at some point, but it's still in modeling. It's still in a planning stage. It's still on a very early stage, and it will require a lot of further implementations to be feasible. So we're planning on having a revenue sharing model, but to do that, we believe that it takes more inbuilt revenue streams, and we're gonna have to do it at a later date. It's not something that is still feasible. There's still a lot to do before that, but yes, we have put some thought into it, and it is something that we plan to do ahead, but we can't really promise anything as of yet because I'm not going to put a date on it until we have something established and definitive and finish modeling it and start developing it. Then we can discuss that more clearly.
Okay, so now I'll mix a bit the order of questions because I've seen some later questions are more fitting to be asked now. So, Enigma C asks, can you explain the predictions game a bit more? And is it planned for being long term or just temporary for the marketing?
So the predictions game works as follows. You're basically placing bets on whether the price of Phantom is going up, down, or staying neutral. The basically every single time there's a prediction, Currently, it's running every 30 minutes. For the event, we made it run every 5 minutes, and we're planning on reducing those times as we go along and as we develop our player base. But at the start of each prediction, it counts, and it's basically um, telling you can place your bet if you think it's going to go neutral, bearish, or bullish, and you basically end up seeing where it's going to go from there. And you if it lands on your choice, essentially what happens is you get the funds from the other players that played with you that lost. So that's how it happens. It's basically split amongst the winners. The losers create a pot, and the winners split that pot based on how much each of them bet. And we take a fee from that and put in our treasury. It's used to basically run the keepers that run the game, and it's also used to stock up our treasury for Scarab buybacks. And it is something that we plan to continue with. We want to bolster the player base of that game. We're continuing making improvements on it and fixing the bugs and issues and trying to make it better and more fun. We're continuously working on it, developing it, and launching new versions of the contract with improvements. And we want to deliver the most polished version we can, and that is how we're trying to approach these things. We have to move fast, but at the end of the day, quality is also important. So as we move fast, we obviously have to then fix bugs and launch updates to improve quality of life and to improve playability. And that is what we've been doing. That is what we'll continue to do. And yeah, it's one of the things that we're continuing to work on as we go along.
Great. So, and another question comes from Johnny. Are you planning to develop the prediction game further, such as tournament, jackpot, something similar like that, to motivate players?
Sorry, what did he say we should do?
Are you planning to have some, I don't know, contests, such as tournaments and jackpots with your prediction game?
Oh, we are planning on adding some other games that you can play with. We're actually going to make them be playable with Scarab instead of Phantom. A lot of people in our community asked us this, and I think it's a good way to go about it. It creates some buy pressure on Scarab for those who want to play, and it allows our players who already have Scarab to use it, and it gives a use case for our token. So we're going to be adding some more games using Scarab. And we're also planning on doing jackpots as well. It's something that we've been implementing as we go along.
Okay, so let's get back to DeFi. Unified asks, as the treasury gets stronger, do you anticipate that Scarab emissions will at some point be backed completely by treasury? Is the goal to make Scarab non-inflationary and transition to G-Scarab into a revenue sharing token?
Yeah. So yes and no. Basically, we do intend to collateralize our token. That is our long-term goal. As I said, it is the full transition of when G-Scarab stops emitting. We still have a lot of development to do before that and before we can model that. But basically our plan and our long-term plan is we're going to be slowly weaning people off emissions. Unfortunately, 1,000% APR is not sustainable. We all wish it was so we could all buy Lambos, but it's not. It's not something that is going to hold, and it is not a safe investment. And it is going to end up in what happens to most of the basis cash forks, which is zero and 2/3 of people lose everything. And we don't want that. So what we're developing is enough revenue streams to support us, but with that, it's going to come with slashing emissions over time because they are not sustainable. So we want that system to be essentially backed. And yes, it is collateralization is our plan. But as to what we do with G Scarab, we're still thinking about it. To be honest, we we want to make sure that we have the right solution for it, and we are also honestly looking at what Tomb is going to do, and if they can do it, and if their transition works, well, we have an advantage on this, which is there is someone doing it ahead of us, which means we can look at them and see how they approach the issue and if they can succeed or not. And we can work off of it because if they fail, we can take lessons from their failure. And if they can succeed, we can take lessons from their success. So this gives us a pretty good advantage. I think it's very fortunate for us because basically we have a test running ahead of us. And yeah, we still have to work out what we're gonna do with G Scarab. You know, at the end of the missions, it's still a long time from now, and it's probably going to be longer because our mission schedule is probably going to be elongated when we cut emissions to, you know, have it run for longer and try to make it more sustainable and safer.
Great. So I think we should already be wrapping this up. So I'll ask last question, which is great to end this part of the session. So Uncle Muthul asks, why do you think people should be interested in your project? And what are the factors that this project will be focusing on to attract more people to invest in their project?
Okay, so the reason for people to look at us is very simple. We're doing things differently. We recognize the failures in the protocol. We've seen them. We know what they are. We're doing something about it. We're doing something different. We have a different approach. We're going to continue building our revenue streams. We're going to continue building upon what we have. Our SynSpirit model is not the end and is not the first model of this sort that we're going to be launching. I'm going to drop a little bit of alpha right now and say, start looking at Beethoven X and maybe even X LiquiDR, because we are not stopping with Spirit Swap and with SynSpirit. We believe these models are very profitable and they're very good to sustaining our system because it anchors us to protocols that are healthy and that are sustainable. So we are not going to stop, and this is why, you know, investors can look at us, because this is how we're going to be attracting new people, doing something different and innovating and trying to achieve something that no one has even tried to do yet, which is trying to make a senior Ash protocol that makes sense and that is sustainable. And you know, I think we're going to be looking at a lot of people being interested in us because we have a different view. And yeah, we're going to continue developing. We're an ambitious team. We don't stop. We don't even plan to stop. With Scarab, we want to build more features and more protocols that build onto our full ecosystem. And we're going to be creating an ecosystem that supports each other. We don't plan to stop, and we intend to create something cool on Phantom and something that people can look at and say that at least we innovated, because we love this space, we love the DeFi space, and you know, this is our dream, and we think that there is no way we can stop now because we're giving up too much to do this, and I'm not going to stop until I've reached my goal, which is to build something that people can look at and I don't know, be impressed, I guess.
Thanks. So I think we are wrapping up the first part of our AMA session. In several minutes, we'll start the second part where Yoshi will be the guest and Scarab Finance will be the host. We'll move to Scarab Finance server. But now, shall we have this giveaway from Scarab Finance now to our listeners?
Yeah, who were the best questions? We're going to be sending prizes to them. Let's see. Who were the best questions? Do you want to choose or should I?
Usually the person who answers chooses on when we do AMAs. So I mean, think
Okay,
we
so
can do it the
I
same.
really like the question by 0x Unified. Like it was a pretty small question, so I like him. I think we can do that.
Okay, so congrats, Unified. So yeah, do you have one or more items to give away?
I'm checking the other questions. Wait a second. Um,
Sorry, I have forgotten
okay,
you.
we can do live for a viewer. We can do a giveaway for him too. I like this question a lot too.
Great.
And how many people should we do?
I don't know. It depends on you. I'll be doing 3 on my part, but depends
Then
on
we'll
how.
do two. Then we'll do three too. Let me check. Okay, Uncle Muthu also will be getting
Awesome.
a giveaway.
Congrats, guys. So I think do you have your DMs open for everyone so they can just DM their wallet addresses to you?
Yeah. You can DM me. Please do because I gotta keep track of what shows. So please do DM me and
Okay, let's
we'll be giving you prizes.
go grab a cup of water and we'll start in 2 minutes on your server.
Sounds good. Thank you guys for coming.
Yeah, move to another
Join
server.
us.
Yeah,
Yeah, join us on Scarab Finance Discord to have an AMA on Yoshi Exchange and what we're doing with them and what they're up to.
I'll provide the link to in the chat.
Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna join on the other side.